Well, hello. This is my first time doing a YouTube live, so if it goes terribly, blame YouTube. We will get started in just a few moments after I give the latecomers a little time to show up. Those of you who are already here, you're obviously the real fans, so kudos. How do people do this? There's so many windows to keep track of. Hello, welcome. Why, thank you. You know, it takes quite a few hours to get my hair and makeup looking quite so perfect. Yeah, so just in case my mouth moves and I don't say anything, the PNG Tuber app is picking up my voice, but I'm on push to talk, so it's going to pick it up no matter what, but the push to talk will make sure that they don't you know, you guys don't hear me clicking around and everything. Well, let me go ahead and turn that up for you. How's this? 1 minute into a live showing and you're already making comments about my weight. You know, female media personalities have really not, it's not gotten any easier, has it? Of course. You know, I can at a moment's notice because I have drawn the frames for the PNG tuber. Thank you. Yeah. So I'll go ahead and get started now. Hi, everyone. I am Orlina, your dark sorceress host of Furry Found Footage. And I'd like to welcome you all to the first live Q&A. We are celebrating both 5,000 followers on Twitter and 1,000 subscribers on YouTube. 1,000 is doesn't seem like much in this day and age, but it is one of the thresholds that you have to cross before you can monetize. So just a little bit longer, and I can start making a few pennies for talking about the balloons in Catnapped. Why, thank you. So I'm going to give you all just a brief overview kind of the channel's history. Um, we started back in 2000, gosh, uh, 2012. I used to have a podcast called Podcastigation, and my co-host was Agouti Rex. Some of you may know him. And I moved to where he lived for college, and we started going to thrift stores like several times a week looking for VHS tapes. We would watch them and digitize them at the same time. So we have a ton of, stuff built up over the years. And for quite a few years, we just did that. We just looked at VHS tapes, enjoyed them, whatever. It was only after I came back from the year I spent living in Japan. I was teaching junior high over there. So when I came back, I just kind of had this itch to do some kind of project. And I think that was 2014. That was the year we did our first, actually 2014 would have been when we were editing it, putting it together. And then in 2015 was when we premiered Furry Found Footage at Further Confusion. We were in this tiny little room, standing room only. I think this was the first year. So it's a tiny room, right? And, just a little convention room or a panel room. And it was going off without a hitch. People were showing up. And then there were these whispers like, uh-oh, looks like the adventure crew is here. You better be careful because these drunkards might trash everything. And I'm sitting there like, in what world do we allow some people in the furry community to just roll around the con space and quote, fuck shit up? But, it all turned out fine because these people, whoever they were, I'm still not entirely sure. They kind of piled on the floor like eager children watching mom's movie collection. And they quite enjoyed it. Everyone quite enjoyed it. And so we knew at that point that we had soothed the savage beast, and we were going to keep going with this. To be completely transparent, all the editing was done by me. Agouti's input really at the beginning was sitting next to me and laughing. But we made it work. So, I leaned on Agouti a lot in those first years because we were partners. We were figuring things out. We did it together. We had a lot of fun, fan ideas and fan art ideas. And when I finally moved away, I moved away from where Agouti lived in 2017. So I came back. I was starting this job, and things just kind of went quiet for a couple of years. I was still making them, still premiering them. Actually, I shouldn't say we went quiet because we were going to other cons. We went to BLFC. I went to Texas Furry Fiesta as a guest of honor representing Iron Claw because I had written modules for one of the books and done editing on 2 of the books. So I was there with the creator representing that, and I did a Furry Found Footage panel there. And since then, we've just kind of been doing it at Further Confusion, and slowly but surely, they have been recognizing our grandeur and the fire hazard that we tend to cause with the sheer number of people crowding in every time it's been standing room only. that they've been giving us larger and larger rooms slowly but surely. So these last couple of years, we have been on stage on the main, no, the second stage um, of the convention, which is great, wonderful. I will say it is kind of sad that when something unique comes along to the furry community, such as a found footage thing, it does kind of it's difficult for it to get traction. For example, we would love to be on the main stage, or I would love to be on the main stage, but as you may know, they have like dances basically 24 hours a day at the con. So that's it seems like the highest thing a furry can aspire to be is a dancer who bought a fursuit. But I'm here to break the mold. I want you furries to know that you can do anything. Um, so in a few in a few more minutes, I'm going to start answering questions that were asked previously. Just keep in mind everything that I've been talking about. Maybe you'll have some questions come up based on that brief little history. Um, so let's see. If it's not too much trouble, I'm going to start these questions. There were only a couple that were asked prior to the show, so I'm going to go for these first. And this is going to be really casual. We can move around, we can do whatever. I'll probably show you guys stuff at some point. Okay. So our first question was from Ghost Girl, who I believe is in this very stream. Um, and she is asking, who was the first furry character that you remember having a crush on? Or if you can't remember, what got you interested in the furry fandom? Well, my dear Ghost Girl, I can remember who I first had a furry crush on. So, uh, this was actually a story that I told on the old podcast back in the day. It was so well known that we got a couple of pieces of fan art based on it. But when I was let me backpedal a little bit. So of course, furry interest things does include furry paraphilias or kinks as they're called. And I feel like a lot of the narrative is that these are things that you choose to get into. You kind of absorb them from your friends or whatever, and that may be true. But I do think we're born with our brains wired in a certain way. I'm not going to say more on it uh, because I don't really know the science of it, of course. Nature and nurture are pretty much the reasons for everything that we do. But when I was 5 years old, I was in my kindergarten classroom, and we were all watching the TV. My kindergarten teacher had put on a VHS of Charlotte's Web, and now this was back in the 90s, so of course it would have been the 70s version of Charlotte's Web, the one that breaks your heart. But there's a character in Charlotte's Web called Templeton, voiced by Paul Lind, this wonderful rat character, very big personality. And he has probably the first weight gain sequence I ever saw as a child. And it was like I saw it and I knew that that was what I liked. And I even said aloud, what if he got as big as the world? And I got some strange looks, if I remember correctly. But I feel like that's proof that like this isn't something that I acquired, you know, down the road. I feel like this was something that I was born with. This interest. Um, so I would say if you do have those interest, I mean, Most people who have those interests can probably point to some things when they were very small, saying, like, oh, yeah, for some reason I was terrified of like bats or something, and now I'm obsessed with them. This sort of attraction revulsion stuff is very common in paraphilias. Um, and for whatever reason, I saw this funny cartoon rat gaining weight, and I was like, that's it. So fast forward a bunch of years, here I am. But yes, that was the first furry character that I had a crush on. When I was a teenager, Star Fox Assault came out. I believe that's the one where he goes to Dinosaur Planet. This is a GameCube game. Originally, it was going to be called Dinosaur Planet. They switched it over at the last minute to be Star Fox so that people would actually buy it, I'm guessing. And I had a big crush on Crystal. I think that was one of the first, like, I don't know, like, I'm kind of an adult. This character is an adult. Like, oh, this is what like having a crush on somebody would feel like. I didn't really have a lot of, well, I had crushes on other girls when I was a kid, but that's kind of separate from the furry stuff, I think. So, whether or not she can enjoy her sandwich, Crystal will always have a small, tiny little kernel of a place in my heart. So let me move on to my next question here. You're getting some quality answers. I really hope that this is recording because I'd like to share this after the fact. So we have another question from my good friend Fenris. He says, what are some of the shows you would recommend featuring furry characters that may not be well known? So I'm going to dovetail this. If you were in the writer's room for one of the shows that you've covered on this channel and they were making a sequel or a new episode, what show and what would you include? I love this. Johnny, I'm going to ask you to save your questions for a little bit longer because I'm going to ask you guys directly what your questions are. So just copy that and you can paste it back at me later. So I've covered a couple shows so far in Furry Found Footage. One of them was a pilot for a show. Of course, if I'm going to go back and revive a show or discuss a show, Sweet Sea, the show that I did the very first episode on, would be a big one. I would love for that to come back for a whole series because it's incredible. It's incredibly animated by TMS. It's got amazing music. It's got amazing characters. And other than the obvious kind of like, inflation, whatever episode for the villain, Sheba, I would love to see some kind of episode. One of my favorite things is when the villain has to like swallow part of themselves for a minute and like help the hero. That's like one of my favorite tropes. They've been fighting for 20 episodes and suddenly like either some bigger bad happens or there's a natural disaster or something. And the villain comes to the hero's aid. I love that. Even if they aren't necessarily becoming heroic, it's like a one-off thing. They do that in cartoons a lot. There's a trope. Artist, I I have not seen Hell of a Boss, and I don't plan to. One of the other shows that I would definitely like to make some kind of episode about, of course, it would be, a Weight Gain episode, but this is just an excuse to show you one of my favorite characters. This actually kind of ties back to the first crush character too, because I had a crush on this character when I was like 4. My dad had a VHS or 2. We would watch them. I think it was like, one of those things where I thought, oh, this is all that there is. Of course, there's 50 episodes or whatever of this show, but I thought there were like 3. So let me see if I can share my screen here and show you that. Let me just get him centered here. Okay, do you guys know who this is? Well, it's Bravestar, Marshall Bravestar. Um, I thought he was pretty cool. And it is, I think it's kind of neat that like as a little kid in like the early 90s, um, one of these cool action stars was this guy who is presented as Native American. I just thought that was cool. He's like kind of unique as far as cartoons go from the era. Yes, as Iris says, the first. Okay, so I'm going to show you a clip here that will explain to you why I like one of these characters so much. The character is 3030. I had a huge crush on him when I was a kid. So here he is. Hopefully this audio comes through too. Let me know if it doesn't.
Sounds like sandstorm. And if it is, you've got trouble, all right. I better go with you. Just let me call my partner. 3030. Come in, 3030. You read me, big partner?
Oh, you work all day for some sugar and some hay, putting the bad guys away.
He's not answering. Well, there's...
He's doing his hair. It's so sweet. Hopefully you guys could hear that. I think there's another scene at the end. Or no, maybe it's in the middle. Hold on.
My people's settlement lies just beyond.
He is fantastic. He has incredible 80s hair.
I just don't
He has a
like
tiara.
It. Don't like it at all. Bravestar should have been back hours ago. He must have had trouble. Now I'm gonna call him. Oh, I forgot.
He's got the accent.
I left it over here. This is 3030 calling Marshall Bravestar. Come in, Marshall.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I'm sure. Iris. Yeah, I think he's probably also the reason why I have such a thing for accents, particularly southern accents. And yeah, the toy, like the character, can go from quadrupedal to bipedal.
Section of town.
Yeah.
And if somebody's
And
done
that's his
captured
gun.
my
I
partner,
forget the gun's name.
This
Sarah
is the place
Jane or
I'll
something?
find out about it.
I love all the little side characters.
I tell you, I thought we was done for when that marshal showed up. I'll say, that dang Bravestar always shows up where he ain't wanted. Ooh, ooh. Ow! Ay, ay, ay!
Howdy, chum. A friend of mine would like to meet you. This is my friend. And unless
Can you
wanna
believe
be
this?
frosted over till the next ice age, you'd better tell me where Bravestar is.
I don't know.
You was saying?
I don't think his gun actually shoots bullets. I think it's like one of those things where it was the 90s, so they had a code that they had to follow in animated shows and they couldn't do like guns. Yes, Mirja, yes, I do. I think his gun shoots like a freeze thing or something like that. But the imagery here is very evocative. So I'm going to say again, hold questions until I'm taking them directly from the chat. Okay. So that's Brave Star. And 3030. And yes, I do have porn of him. And no, it has not been posted anywhere. And no, you cannot see it. Maybe for the 10,000 subscribers, I'll show you. Okay, so yes, in answer to Fenris's question, I would love to do some kind of weight gain episode with him because, you know, big horse, big appetite, that kind of thing. It becomes a hindrance because you can't fight the bad guys, you know, that kind of stuff. It's a lot of fun. Get stuck in the saloon doors, you know. So, yeah, my secret archives are probably as extensive as my media archive, let's say. So I'm going to go to the next and the last question that was pre-asked, and then I'm going to take a short break. So this one is from Sea Swine. This is also on Twitter. Of the short-lived shows you found, which one would you have most liked to see continue? Again, that's definitely Sweet Sea, but let me think on that a little bit more. And what are some of the more unusual animal costumes in terms of species and design you've encountered? Give me a second. I'll be right back and then I'll answer that. Okay, hi. Wait just for a second. Gonna put on my hypno face because I love him so much. That is a gaze of adoration. Back to our regularly scheduled programming. So, I was asked about costumes. What were some of the weirdest that I've ever seen? Give me a second to dig this up.
First.
Okay, so back about 10 years ago, Goody and I found a tape called Uncle Nick in the Magic Forest. I believe now some YouTuber or another has made it famous, but as always, I was way ahead of the curve on this. Let me see if I can get it in. Okay, there we go.
You gotta go round and round now.
So these suits, I don't hate them. Actually, they're not quite as bad as I remember, but these are some of the worst suits that I've seen. Of course, you know, when you really mature, it's obvious that there were budget constraints. Oh, that brutal moose is a real one. Yeah, I've been watching him for a few years. He's a good boy. He can stay. So I wanted to point out that for in a lot of cases, back when we would watch old stuff, we used to be very, I mean, Agudi and I, very down on it. Like, oh, this is awful. In fact, we used to call furry found footage awful crap. But the more I watch of this old stuff, the more I realize how much better a lot of it was than the kind of stuff we get now. And I'm guessing that's because the stuff we get now is another 30 years of capitalism later, where the things that are created are even more narrow, even more, I'm sorry, not narrow, even more broad. They're meant to make as much money as possible for as little expenditure as possible. Um, so I think that's why, and overall, you see quality shift around. Of course, there are still good things that come out. Um, Tuca and Birdie is one of those. I'm obsessed. No one else seems to be watching it, but I think it says a lot that they do the kind of jokes that you would see in other quote unquote adult animations. But because it's directed, written, showrun by women, for some reason, even the vulgar jokes don't seem very vulgar, and they pass off very very nicely. They're funny. They don't denigrate anyone. Um, so I will say I need to to emphasize how good that show is, and how much it proves that we need more women to be showrunners, particularly of animated stuff and particularly of adult animated stuff. Like as a woman, that show is the kind of thing that I've been waiting for something like 2 decades. Oh, I'm so happy to see all the love. That's great. Yeah, it just really feels like, compared to something like Hell of a Boss, I don't see any. Of course, that show run by a woman too, but I don't see any fan art for Tuca and Birdie. It's kind of sad. But so I've been a lot more lenient on old things. But unless they're Christian media, then fuck them. But this Uncle Nick stuff, like for the budget that they probably had, I don't really mind. In fact, I think at the end, hold on. Okay, wait. Never mind. I hate Uncle Nick. For some reason, I thought it was I thought it was I thought it was Joanne, but it's Hobby Lobby. So those storied artifact thieves who like to take religious artifacts from the Middle East and put them in museums in fucking Kentucky or whatever. Oh, did I just say a bad word? I don't think YouTube likes that. YouTube might demonetize me. Naughty, naughty. Because adults can't be adults in adult spaces anymore. Bingo, I think they are. I'm not sure. Hopefully they are. So that is all for my pre-questions. So I would like for you guys to now ask me some questions. So I know some of you had some. Johnny Blanco had one. A couple others had one. So go ahead and ask a question. Yeah, go right ahead. Let me get Uncle Nick out of here. Yes, Kay, that was a thing that happened. Oh, Luna, so my feelings for Zootopia 2 are really complicated because before George Floyd in 2020, I mean, of course, cops have been a problem forever, but before our kind of nation woke up collectively a little bit to what was going on with the police, I have really mixed feelings about Zootopia. It's kind of more difficult to watch it now that you're like, oh, they're going through a lot of the same stuff that real life police departments do to obstruct investigations, to support corruption in government office, such as the mayor's office. I used to have a blog where I was the mayor of Zootopia. That was an incarnation of Arlena before Princess, before Dark Sorceress, after what came before. Uh, so I hope that they are able to handle what I assume is going to be a police story while also saying things. I mean, here's the problem. They need to say things about police that they will not say because they can't say it because this movie has to make $1 billion the world over, and most people, sadly enough, will clutch their pearls at an anti-cop message. So we're gonna have to see what happens. Okay. So thank you for the question. That was Luna Satine. So now, Johnny Blanco, I love this question. What is one bit of media that you wanted to get your hands on for an episode, but you haven't been able to yet? Whew. Let me think about that for a second. This is a tough one. Can I just say I really hope this suit holds and I don't inflate during the episode, during the live stream? The stays are a bit tight on the personage. Okay, so I can't really think of something that I've been struggling to get my hands on because I'm pretty good at finding stuff. In fact, I've even bought tapes from eBay, digitized them, so I had them because they didn't exist online. Um, so I will say one of the things that is common in my search is finding stuff from Japan that does not have a dub, never had a dub, or has a lost dub. Because a lot of the stuff from Japan, particularly from the 70s and 80s, incredible. Uh, there's a very little known show that is called Bug Tehani, and I'm gonna reveal that to people eventually because there's some important stuff in there, and I'm gonna be posting about it sometime pretty soon, I think. So just wait for that, and yeah, stay tuned. Okay, let me see what other questions we had here. Okay, wait, here we go. Dian Felissa asks, I'd love to hear your thoughts on media preservation, especially subculturally important media like furry touchstones. Uh, my thoughts on media preservation are nuanced and extensive. I actually really hate that media preservation always seems to fall on individuals rather than on the companies that produce this stuff. Because it's not financially feasible to keep all this old stuff available, to keep it renewed. So obviously, we have media that's important to subcultures, that's important to people, that gets lost because of capitalism. Again, we have these issues where because it's not profitable to bring Elf Tales to DVD, they're not going to do it, and so no one can see Elf Tales. Which have a great inflation scene in them, by the way. So yeah, I think it's really important for people, if they're interested in media preservation, to be involved in media preservation circles. And if they can't do that, then what I suggest to you is to get a couple of hard drives and start downloading stuff that you couldn't live without, because chances are it'll disappear. One of the reasons I started all this is because when you make a YouTube playlist and you're like, oh yeah, there's this old movie, really cool. You come back the next day and some of them are missing because they've been taken down, and it doesn't tell you what's missing, which is great. So you don't know what you lost, and that's just the case, down the line. You lose stuff without knowing what it is, and then it's gone forever. So yeah, I mean, kind of try to personally involve yourself with media preservation, even if it's like a very small, you have a hard drive, you're downloading a couple things, because odds are one day one of those things that you're downloading might go missing from the internet, and you will be the one to have it, to supply it again. So basically, let me say it like this. For media preservation in the 21st century, the Library of Alexandria is constantly burning, and you need to take as many scrolls as you can out of the fucking library. Okay? All right. That's 2 strikes for the F word. Let me see what else we have. Oh my God, so many questions, you guys. Crown says, excluding those you've already covered recently, what's the best hidden gem you've come across? Let's see. One of my favorite things was Will Vinton's Dinosaurs, A Fun-Filled Trip Back in Time. I'm going to do an episode about that in the future, so if you want to check it out, you'll be apprised. Also has an incredible claymation inflation scene. Really, I can't say enough about Will Vinton's, the quality of his work, so. We have Riot Shark. Would you ever cover something Godzilla related? Like the old Hanna-Barbera Godzilla or the 1998 animated series of the TriStar design? That's a great question. Yeah, of course I would if it was obscure enough. I think the problem with things is that I try to find an interposition of obscurity and importance. Godzilla is something that everyone knows about, so it's difficult for me to think that I'll be able to add anything to the conversation by doing an episode. That doesn't mean it won't happen, though. In fact, I used to watch Godzilla and Godzuki in reruns in the 90s. And of course, I grew up with the animated series. I saw the Godzilla American film in theaters. So, yeah, you never know. Okay, SJ asks, as the supplies of used physical media shrink, less VHS and DVDs at thrift stores, how do you think the sourcing of found footage will change? The sourcing of found footage has changed because it used to be VHS and DVDs. VHS are all but gone. So I have to find them on eBay if I find them at all. DVDs are rarer and rarer, and usually they're of stuff that everyone already knows about. You know, it's like Steel Magnolias or something. So the sourcing of furry found footage has become me going around the internet, see what I can find, torrenting, finding lost stuff. I have found lost films that I saw at film festivals in Sapporo 10 years ago through just intensive Googling. You can find just about anything. I will say you can find just about anything just by going deep enough in search results. So Iris J, hi, asks, where do you usually source your footage from? Oh, okay. I guess I just answered that. Do you still do a lot of transfer from IRL media, or do you lean more towards digital sources these days? I lean heavily towards digital sources these days, but I do the occasional VHS transfer. Part of the problem is also getting a working transfer cable, because mostly you get knockoffs. And the one that I want to use that retro video game streamers use has been sold out for ages, so darn. Villager Wolf 527 asks, what are your plans for future episodes? I really love your stuff and would like to help out editing since I'm an editor for Shafria's Productions. I'm not sure what that is. Much appreciated. I do all my editing myself. It's really quite simple. But you know, in case I do get in over my head, I probably would ask the community. As of now, a few of my planned episodes. I've got Poochie. Poochie, Outlanders, Heidi's Song, The Elm Chanted Forest. Yeah, that's just a few. Okay, scrolling down, Luna Satine asks, question, which material do you prefer more in your inflation material, rubber or latex / PVC? I'll be perfectly honest with you, I am really not sure what the difference is. So as long as it's shiny, I don't know. Okay, next question. Another from Terabient. Is there another version of an older question from Terabient? Is there a particular piece of media that you haven't been able to find? I've been okay so far. Yeah. I think there were things at times that were plaguing me, but I found them, so Okay, Blondie Fox 27 asks, I have a question. Have you heard of stuff like Beastars, Baggy, the Mighty Monster of Nature, and Buddy Thunderstruck? I have seen all those. Wait, no, I have not seen Beastars. I usually don't really like to watch things that are set in high schools. So most anime is out for me. I'm an adult. I prefer to watch adults doing adult things. But Buddy Thunderstruck, very cute show. I do enjoy it. I haven't seen all of it, but it's great. And Baggy, the Mighty Monster of Nature by Osamu Tezuka is a very important film, especially for furries. I recommend everyone watch it. I'll probably do an episode about it someday. I think the interesting thing is something like Baggy was very well known about 10, 15 years ago among furries. And now it's like, furries don't know their own history. Furries don't even know, furries don't even really know where they originated from. And none of them really seem to be that interested in the history of the fandom that they're devoting their entire lives to and policing. So I don't really know what's going to come of that other than what is already happening. But I will say, everyone watch Baggy. Okay. Okay, I've got a couple of kink questions I'm not really going to answer because I think my tastes are obvious based on my Twitter. Declan asks, does having sexy characters increase a film's importance? Why, Declan, of course. Of course it does. That's the only metric. No, of course. Sexy characters is is a really important one. The quality of the animation, the uniqueness of the animation is one. I'll tell you right now. I will probably never cover this person's stuff on Furry Found Footage, but it is imperative that you watch it, and only you guys who are here in this live stream are going to hear this. Go and search out Susan Pitt. That's SUZANPITT. Look at her work. It's on YouTube. It will change your life. It will upend what you think you know about animation, and you will enjoy it. Trust me. Okay, Vera, question. I know there's a lot of old American and Japanese media that you've dived into. Is there anything from other parts of the world that's piqued your interest? Why, yes. So there's a lot of great animation that came out of Europe in the 80s. I really like. It's called Oxtails in America. It was an anime that was produced based off a Dutch comic strip by Will Raymaker about Ollie the Ox. He's super cute. He's got clogs. He's got overalls. He inflates multiple times in several episodes. It's amazing. Okay, I have a question about from Macedonia. I remember a furry 80s cartoon with some kids and they make a water raft with magic. It was only one episode on a tape. Any ideas? So that is a very difficult description, but I'm going to say let me see if I can remember the title. Yeah, so I'm going to go on a limb and say that is maybe the Wild Puffalumps. Because I do seem to remember an episode where they have a raft. Of course, rafts feature a lot in cartoons, so I'm really not sure, but good luck. Okay, this is probably going to go long. We're not going to end at 4, I don't think. So Crown asks, have you thought about a year limit? As in, what you must be a set number of years old? Or just a matter of obscurity? No, it's not really about when it was made. It's really more about how obscure it is and how important it is. Okay, Iris asks another question. Speaking of, I know you found footage of conventions in the past. Where do you unearth those? Would you ever consider doing a furry found footage episode specific to con content? Oh, good question. So, uh, one of the reasons why it's called furry found footage is because in episodes of the live show, I've included footage from old furry cons. A lot of the times, I just find that stuff on YouTube. I mean, you just Google it, you find it. I'm not sure I would do an episode specific to con content because a a lot of those people are around and they might not like what I say. I don't know. Uh, we've had greats like Rod O'Reilly be in the audience when we had footage that included him, and he would stand up after the show and be like, "Yeah, that was me. Like, I'm so glad you're doing this." Like, I love that guy. That guy's amazing. By and large, I only have good things to say about old furry cons. But I just feel like I cross a line when I'm talking about real people who aren't performing versus people who are, maybe they're in costume, but it's for a show or it's a cartoon. I'm not sure. Maybe I would eventually down the line, but I couldn't see it at present. Wait, Acidonia, was that it? That was it. It was wild puffalums? Can everyone just can we take a minute to appreciate the fact that Acidonia had about a sentence of vague description involving a raft and kids, and I was able to identify what the show was? I feel like I should have a doctorate. Okay, Villager Wolf asks, have you ever seen Jellystone? Yes, I have, of course. Okay, were there any other questions? Because we could wrap up pretty soon. Dino Saucy, I will guarantee more dinosaur more dinosaur cartoons in the future. In fact, I will probably do an episode on my favorite dinosaur show cartoon, Dino Saucers. I haven't done an episode yet about a cartoon that is a full series because I think it would be difficult to pick what clips I would use. But it is on my. It's something I want to do. So Shy Guy XL, that is Little Wolf's Book of Badness. I'm 2 for 2. Anyone else want to try me? Luna Satine has another question. In which piece of media did the hypno kink click for you? I think the hypno kink was something that I got into later, but I will say one of my earliest memories was seeing an episode of Beetlejuice with this awful anthro bull sheriff. And Lydia has this nightmare where she's married to him in the future, and they have all these kids, and she's like his servant, and he's just watching TV and drinking beer and stuff. And that stuck with me until now. And so now I have like a like a wedding thing. Yes, Shy Guy, I know I'm right. I have literally seen probably almost everything that has ever been made. So if you want to ask me, if you want to try me in these last couple minutes, go ahead. Spectrum Harlequin asks, I loved your post about vintage kink and inflation content from older times. And some of the little essays you wrote, do you think you'd make one into a video? Yeah, probably. Let me think. So for that crown, I have no clue, but I recommend you go to the Big Cartoon Wiki and type in frog, and you'll probably find it. Blondie Fox 27 asks, are you familiar with TMNT Comics, the old Archie run and the current IDW run? No, my knowledge of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles extends to the original series and Tournament Fighters. I'm really glad that I was able to get through this without inflating. Oh, I knew this would happen. Lena Satine, no, I have not seen the remake. It sounds terrible. So this is where we're at. uh, I should just end it like this, huh? So thank you all so much for coming. I'm not going to be able to continue the Q&A at this point because first of all our hour is up, and second of all I've been inflated into a colossal balloon. So this is really going to be a difficult period for me. Iris, thank you so much for the compliment. Thank you all for being here. I'm so glad that I was able to do this. I really enjoyed this. This actually kind of made my day. So thank you so much. How can I end it? You're right. Could you guys hit the stop button for me? All right. Thanks for coming again. This has been Arlena, your host. Your sorceress, your balloon. And in case anyone's curious, yes, that is a real photo of my real office where I have my CRT, my VCR, my desk, where I do my editing. Yeah. Bye. Thanks all for coming, and I hope to do this again soon. Give me those 10,000 subscribers and we'll talk.